So welcome to the first session, the first live session of our online workshop, Confidence and Curiosity, Girls at the Telescope. We're really excited to have you all here. I'm Anna Hurst, the Director of Museum, Park, and Library Programs at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. And as I mentioned, I'm filling in for Teresa Summer, who's really the lead of this workshop, and maybe joining us again in upcoming sessions, we hope. So I hope that I can do justice to the wonderful material that she's put together. And we're really happy to have you all here. I'll mention that I'm joined by Brian Cruz from the ASP. He's helping out with just some technical support, and he'll keep an eye on the chat for questions. And then we also have a special guest tonight I'm really excited about, Jessica Hendricks. And she is the Space Science Program Manager for the Girl Scouts of Northern California. This workshop is part of a partnership that the ASP has with the Girl Scouts. We're one of their partners on a project to create some space science badges. We're really excited to be working with them. And delighted that part of that project includes these kind of trainings for amateur astronomers who are doing outreach. So thanks for joining us, Jessica. We'll hear from her a little bit later. She'll be talking about kind of the Girl Scout culture and those badges. So we're really happy that she was able to join us tonight. So this first session is, we're calling kind of about moving the needle, talking about why we want to be thinking about the best way to do outreach with girls in particular, and recognizing that getting more girls in science and women in science is a big issue, and we're going to do our best to help with that. So for today's session, just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover, I'll give you just a little bit of background, like who is the ASP, what our plan is for going forward with future sessions. Then we'll hear from Jessica about Girl Scouts culture, talk a little bit about toys. So I asked you to think about what some of your favorite toys were as a child. So we'll bring that up during this. And then we're going to talk about a concept called growth mindset, which I know some of you have heard about before. So we'll get into that a little bit here. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is part of a project of the Girl Scouts, funded by NASA, and ASP is one of the partners on it. Creating new space science badges for all levels of Girl Scouts. And we'll talk, Jessica will fill you in a little bit more about what those different levels are. Connecting Girl Scouts with astronomers so that they can have some role models, and just building some great experiences for girls in astronomy. And that's where a lot of you will come in. I think that's why you're here, is you want to be able to do that. ASP, who are we? I think many of you are perhaps familiar with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. I think many of you are involved with the NASA Night Sky Network, and ASP runs that program for NASA. But we are a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1889. So this year we celebrated our 130th anniversary. We were originally founded 130 years ago. In fact, we were talking about the eclipse. We were founded when a group of both professional and amateur astronomers got together on Mount Hamilton, south of San Francisco, to watch a total solar eclipse. And they thought it was such a great experience and wanted to continue to share their love of astronomy, so they decided to found an organization. And that's how the ASP started, way back in 1889. We've always been an organization that brings together different people who are excited about astronomy, amateurs, professionals, members of the public who are interested, and give them a platform to share their ideas and experiences. In the last few decades, our focus has really been on education and public outreach and how to do that effectively. Our mission is to increase science literacy through astronomy and spread the love of astronomy. We have, as you know, the Night Sky Network, a program for amateur astronomers, sharing materials and resources for doing effective public outreach in astronomy. We have similar programs for educators in museums and parks, teachers in schools, professional astronomers who talk to the public about their work. What, I don't know, am I forgetting anything else, Brian? We try to help everyone who's communicating about astronomy do it effectively and really get the public excited about it.
And I should mention that we give a series of awards every year,
Yes.
and our big awards banquet is this coming Saturday. And in some ways, some people consider the Bruce Medal that we give out to be kind of like the Nobel Prize of astronomy, although it doesn't have a big check.
But it has a shiny gold medal. I'm actually going to get to hand that over on Saturday. We also publish some conference proceedings and things like that. So we're really trying to bridge all of the different astronomy communities and help them connect with each other and with the general public. Yeah. A little bit more about the workshop that you're enrolled in. Each week, there'll be some posts in the forum, like you have all been posting your introductions. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed reading them, and I hope you're getting a sense of who else is involved in the workshop as well. Then we'll have our weekly live session. So this is the first of 3 Thursdays at this time, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll have you try out some sort of small exercise, something to think about or try or do. After each live session, there'll be a quick survey. I will say that we record each of these sessions. So after each session, probably the next day on Friday, we'll post the video as well as the slides, and so that you can review what we went over, or if you have to miss one, you'll be able to watch that recording. We do encourage you to participate live. We try to make them interactive, but we understand that something might come up in your schedule and you can't join live, and then of course you can watch the video. Feel free at any point to chime in with questions. I know we went over a lot of this during your tech checks too, so you may already be all set there. Okay, so why are we doing this special workshop about how to reach girls in science and do more effective outreach to girls? Well, there's a whole lot of research out there. This is just one example. We know that, oops, sorry, just checking my notes. There's a lot of data that supports our motivation for doing this workshop. Here's some data that comes from PISA. This is the Program for International Student Assessment, which is, they gather data worldwide every 3 years, looking at 15-year-olds. So this shows data from a variety of countries. I think this is going back a little while. So this is from the data on the left is from 2012 and on the right from 2010. But basically what this is illustrating is that boys and girls have very similar abilities in science. So this is showing test scores in science. And there's really no difference in ability between girls and boys. But we do then find that when they go on to university studies, that we have many fewer girls graduating with degrees in science than boys. Why is that if they have very similar abilities? There's a whole host of reasons, and it's part of this bigger system that we're all part of. And like I said, we can do our part to move the needle to hopefully encourage more girls to get into science because they have the ability to do so. I have lots of ideas about why I want to get more girls involved in astronomy. I'd love to hear some from all of you. you showed up to this workshop, so it's probably something that you feel is important. Why do you want more girls involved in astronomy? You can unmute and just speak it out, or you can put it in the chat. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Anyone?
Okay, I'll go.
Great.
We just recently, as I put in my introduction, last 5 or 6 years, we've had an increase in women in our astronomy club. Part of that was we actually got we had our first female president here not too long ago, Brenda DeLuna, and she was very adamant about getting other people in there. And once they saw that there was a female president, we started getting more and more ladies coming into the program and staying.
Wonderful.
So that was a nice thing to do, and that's a good reason to have them in.
Yeah. I see a comment from Bob that girls are as interested as boys. Great. Yeah. Do you find that when you have events that girls are just showing as much interest as boys? Anyone else? Why do you feel it's important to get more girls involved in astronomy?
Daniel put in the chat and said that he has 8 great nieces who are interested, and so a little bit more personal there.
Great.
And I would like to add, I've noticed the last several years significant interest from girls at our events, and interest beyond just coming to events, actually getting telescopes and in some cases joining our club. So I know that's one of the things. I think it's a great opportunity, and that why I'm here. Part of why I'm here.
That's wonderful to hear that there's more interest, and so how can you make your club more welcoming to those girls? I see a comment from Michaela. Sorry, Michaela, that your mic isn't working. Michaela says the girls bring so much creativity, and the more girls there are, the more opportunities for them to bond with others with similar interests. Great. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I mean, I'll say that the reason that I want more girls in astronomy, I mean, I think it's great for the girls, right? If they're showing interest, let's provide them with opportunities and make it appealing to them. But I also think it's really important for the field of astronomy to have more diverse ideas and voices and approaches to solving problems. I think that science is going to thrive and be that much richer with more diversity. Yes. Our friends from Connecticut say it's important to offer the opportunity to 50% of the population. We can't waste this talent. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there are a lot of talented women out there who have a lot to offer to the field. And if they feel welcome, then I hope they come and do help enhance this field. Thank you for all great ideas. So I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for signing up and participating in this workshop. I want to acknowledge, this is really important, that by being here, you're already showing up for girls. You're showing that you think this is an important issue, and you want to help, like I said, move the needle. So thank you for showing up. We love amateur astronomers. You're doing great work already, sharing your passion and excitement for astronomy with the public. So thank you again so much for being here. And now I want to turn it over to Jessica to talk a little bit about Girl Scout culture in particular. So Jessica, I'll advance the slides for you. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, sounds great. Hi, everyone. If you came on a little later, my name is Jessica Hendricks. I work with Girl Scouts of Northern California. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Thumbs up? Okay, thanks. So I joined up about 3.5 years ago and received this amazing funding from NASA. It's funded, as Anna said, so many different things. destinations to Goddard and University of Arizona, and the new space science badge is now available for all the levels. And so let's start with levels of Girl Scouts. You can actually, it's a little hard to see in this picture, but you can often identify them if they're in uniform by the color that they're wearing. So daisies are kindergarten and first graders, and they wear that light blue as a vest or a sash. Brownies in grades 2 and 3 will wear a brown vest oftentimes. Juniors, while the color there is purple, are the ones who would be wearing green out there in the world. So if you see a girl in green, she's in 4th or 5th grade. Cadets are middle school. It's the only level that has 3 different grades, since a lot of middle schools now are grades 6 through 8. And those bottom 3 levels, they'll all be wearing khaki uniforms if they're out in the world in their uniforms. So cadets, grades 6 through 8, seniors, a little confusing because seniors are grades 9 and 10. But then if you're a senior in high school, you'll be an ambassador. Those are grades 11 and 12. Oftentimes girls start to specialize in their Girl Scout experience as they move on. A little bit, just briefly about troops, they're usually somewhere in the tiny ones that are just getting started. It'll be just a couple of girls and a leader or 2. Yes, often the leaders are moms, but anyone who's an adult can volunteer to be a leader with Girl Scouts. A standard troop would be about 12 girls, and the larger troops can often be multi-level and 20, 40, even 60 girls, often with multiple leaders. If Girl Scouts are coming to your events, they'll be there with their leaders, because that's how Girl Scout is structured, to make sure that they're adults. Pretty much, you don't have to worry about watching for their safety because their adults are there. So those are the levels, 6 levels, don't have to memorize it, just nice things to know. Okay, next. So we've got this amazing group out of the national organization. The Girl Scouts of the United States of America has a division called the Girl Scouts Research Institute. And this division is made up of a bunch of, usually I just say, a lot of really smart people, usually mostly women with PhDs, who've defined 3 processes, depending on how you say it, that are part of the Girl Scout experience. That everything that's done in Girl Scouts should be sort of aligned with these. Girl-led, and this changes a lot by level. Girl-led for a daisy might be giving them a choice between A and B, whereas a cadet level, you might make it a little bit more open-ended, like, what would you like to do today? So it definitely scales by level. So a girl-led kind of is, it is age-appropriate girl-led experiences. Learning by doing, absolutely. Girl Scouts is hands-on, minds-on, all of the above. So not just sitting there watching a video, reading a book, although those are great things to do as part of an experience. You know, in your case, they'll be out there looking through telescopes likely, or maybe doing some of the hands-on activities from ASP. They'll be learning by doing. And the cooperative learning is really essential in girl environments. I heard a few things earlier about how you found that once you had 1 or 2 women in your club, more felt comfortable coming in. A lot of times girls really enjoy collaborating, and that cooperative learning environment is a really special thing about a girl-only environment, where girls often feel sort of a greater level of confidence to try new things and go do things that are outside of their comfort zone. So working together, learning from each other, reflecting. So those are those 3 processes: girl-led, learning by doing, and cooperative learning. So many of you might be familiar. If you work for a club, you have probably been helping Boy Scouts earn their astronomy badge for years. And I've glanced through it, and a lot of the Boy Scout, I think there's been a lot of confusion because the badges that have come out are really different. They are not a checklist. They are not a test. You do not need to memorize a set of facts about the parts of a telescope or constellations. While those are all incredibly important things to know, the badge goals are really designed to be a little taster, sort of, oh, this would be interesting, and I learned something as I did it. And as we develop these badges with our subject matter experts from ASP, SETI Institute, Girl Scouts of USA, University of Arizona, Goddard, all the great people, that the girls really got a lot more out of trying things out that were a little bit less directed and test-like, just a little bit more like, hey, we're together and having a great experience. So as you're looking at these space science badges available for girls, there'll be a few steps for each level's badge and a few activity choices for each level, for each step. And sort of the idea is the troop leader decides what they do, but every one of the badges encourages girls to get outside and look out. And most of the ones after that daisy level, starting at 2nd grade, have sort of information about how to connect with their local Night Sky Network Club, go out to a star party, participate in a star party, do astrophotography. So there's a lot of opportunities for amateur astronomers to engage with supporting girls earning their badge. And ASP actually has a wonderful page, bit.ly astroall, that I can leave I think either Brian or Anna might have the link, but I can also paste it in, with full of resources about how you can support the girls in their badges.
Yeah, thanks. Brian, if you know where that page is, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up. If not, I can look it up in a sec. And I realized there had been a circle with a slash over that checklist that got lost when I downloaded. So sorry about that. But
oh no, but you know what? There are still a set of steps. They're still supposed to accomplish one choice per step. That is still the badge goal. It's just a little different than having a scoutmaster sign you off. People often ask, how do I know that I've officially earned a badge? And the answer is, it's an honor system. Girl Scouts has a promise in law, and it's on your honor that you completed that badge work and that you've done it.
Great, thank you. And Brian put the link in the chat there for the list of resources. So that's a great place to look at. We'll be sure to post that with the wrap up as well. Great.
Thanks. So next up.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, it appeared. Probably it was, yeah, you're used to these.
It was a multi-layer slide.
The advance. A year or two ago, I was so excited to get these. The Girl Scout Research Institute came out with STEM-specific outcomes. Before, there'd been other outcomes from Girl Scouts, but I love these because they really encapsulate what that Girl Scout experience is about. And often, while these are a list here, they're often described sort of as a pyramid, the STEM interest being the base of all of it. So when a girl has an experience with space science or astronomy, we want her to leave with increased interest. That is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if she leaves with incorrect information. I mean, we don't really want that, but leaving with increased interest is going to allow her to continue to pursue it. The next step of that is confidence. And that's often where people kind of get waylaid. And I'm sure you've seen it out there where someone had a little trouble seeing through an eyepiece and sort of said, yeah, I see it. But you know that they didn't, and they don't feel as confident. They start thinking, this isn't for me. So increasing interest and confidence is really sort of should be your two main goals for any engagements with girls. And again, research-based, lots of smart PhDs doing lots of evaluation. The next one is competence, which is what we most often think about when we think about STEM subjects. Do they know the facts? Do they have the scientific, sort of understand the scientific method, how to ask questions, think through things in the ways that scientists do to help them solve problems. And the final one is STEM value. And this is also, we often bring in mention of role models, women in space science, understanding the importance and relevance of STEM to people in society.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Does anyone have any questions for Jessica about Girl Scout culture specifically before we move on to, we have sort of we're going to watch a video next to discuss. So any questions about that? All right. Well, if you have any, you can ask at the end as well, or in our forum. We'll be able to make sure you get answers there. Oh, here's one. Michaela had a question. I've been curious, actually, where can Girl Scout troops be run?
We have troops forming all the time. So there's 112 councils across the United States. I happen to be in the Northern California Council. Today I was connecting with 3 other councils in the state, which is kind of unusual, but the councils help support troops, and they can be run wherever there's a willing leader who's willing to take on, that role.
Great, thank you. All right. Okay, so now
Can I interrupt just with a follow-up on that?
Sure.
Jessica, if anyone is curious about any Girl Scout troops in their area, where can they go to find out if there's already some troops?
I'm so glad that you asked. So what we usually encourage them to do, and I'll go pull the link in a moment, is that we encourage them to go into the national website and plug in their local zip code. That will then send you to their local council, which often has a staff directory. Most often the staff then will the staff directory will point you to some info at that Girl Scout Council. And you just reach out and you say, hey, I'm in a club. I'd love to support girls doing space science. It will likely be sort of sent over to the program STEM department, who will go, yes, absolutely. And they may even put you in touch with something called a service unit, which are the regional groups of troops where volunteers often run programs in that area. So oftentimes you'll be connected with the local service unit because there might be a lot of opportunities with that, or maybe there's a Girl Scout camp around. So yes, I will find that link. Thank you. That's a great question.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, so now moving on, I want to talk about, talk about toys. So this is where we're going to bring up those toys we asked you to think about. But first, more broadly, thinking about, we saw those statistics of girls having plenty of ability in science, and but then not going into science careers or studies. And it's important to realize that, we are in a system where girls and women are getting constant messaging about what they can do and what they can't do. And it's everywhere. And recognize that, one, you're not responsible for that system, for having created it. And it's not yours alone to fix, but what the goal of this workshop is to help you realize some of the issues and adjustments that you can make to help, make science more welcoming for girls. So we're going to watch a video that just kind of highlights how these sort of prejudices are everywhere, starting very young. So we're going to think about some toys. I'm going to show you a little video of some very young children, babies really, playing with toys. Before we start, I'm interested to hear from you. Did any of you think about what some of your favorite toys were as a child, and if that influenced your interest in science at all? Whether you thought about it in advance or just off the cuff. Oh, great. Okay, so from I think this is from the folks in Connecticut, right? What contributed most to my interest in science were experiences that my parents provided for me and my siblings. We'd visit a lake during the summer, explored and interacted with the environment, collected identified rocks, looked at the night sky, all kinds of great experiences in interacting with the environment. Wonderful. Carol loved to read, specifically science fiction and fantasy. Awesome.
And Dennis had Legos in there too.
Legos, nice. Okay. Anyone else had any toys, whether or not it influenced your interest in science? Daniel, hammer, saw, drill, screwdriver, built a telescope, a Rector set. Oh, that's a classic. Great. Anyone else have favorite toys? I loved to play with dolls when I was a little girl. And I don't know that had anything to do with my interest in science.
Although it sounds like Michaela had her dolls going into space.
Great, yeah. I think playing with dolls definitely influenced my social skills, and I feel like that is social skills are very important in science, because science is all about communication. It's not just investigating knowledge, but also being able to communicate it. I also love to take walks in the woods with my father and look at all the little things on the forest floor, and he'd help me investigate them and get curious about them. Okay, great. Well, I love to hear about, what kind of kicked us off in getting interested in science. I'm going to share a short video with you. It's just like, I think 2.5 or 3 minutes long. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I want to just make sure that, yeah, I share my sound as well. So here we go. We're going to watch this short video. I want you to just see what you think, see if anything surprises you, and we'll discuss it a little bit afterwards. Everyone hear that okay?
Look at this. Look at this. Do you like a dolly? Shall we go for the dolly? There's a good girl. You're a good little girl, aren't you, Sophie? Look, what does this say? Sweet dreams. Sweet dreams. Ooh, look at this, Sophie. Meow, meow. I think she liked that pink dolly the best.
If I were to tell you actually that Sophie is Edward,
Ah.
does that change anything?
I maybe thought, oh, this is a little girl, so I have to give her little girl things.
Say hello. Say hello. 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 Come on.
What's this one? What's that one do? Is that a robot? What about this? You like that one? What does this one do? Oliver. Oliver.
You've gone for, you could say, boy toys for this boy.
Possibly in my subconscious, but for me, I was just going for what was around me, but then perhaps my subconscious was automatically playing a trick on me that I was...
If I tell you that he is actually a girl.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. I suppose it's because of the stereotype.
And then that changed your behaviour towards the child.
It did.
And your behaviour was quite directive.
Did. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Beep, 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 beep. Do you want to see my robot?
She's picked up the robot, the car, the puzzle game. I think she's been much more physical in handling the child than the other adults have been with girls.
That really astounded me because I thought that I was somebody that had a really open mind.
I was surprised, so I automatically went for the pink fluffy toy because I said it was a girl, so I was sort of stereotyping.
I've always thought I was rather more open-minded than that, and I would think, you know, these are children's toys, whatever the gender.
It will make me think the next time I'm with a child, so my niece or my nephew, to make sure that I am actually being sort of fair and equal with all of them, and just giving each child an opportunity to just be whoever they are.
All right, so that's just, you know, that was an anecdotal situation, but I think it highlights some of the issues we're trying to address here. What did you all think? Was there anything that surprised you? Or is there anything that maybe you saw something of yourself in, or things that you've seen in your own life? Anyone want to share a reaction to that video?
Okay, I guess I'll talk again.
Great, please.
I see it that we give the kids, you know, we bias our toys when we give them to them. But I saw it at work a lot of times. I've worked for female managers or directors and stuff. And when we're standing around, somebody walks up to us, they talk to me like I'm the director and that she's not. And there's a couple of times we've had to say, I'm sorry, but I'm just the admin assistant. She's the director. So
right.
it shows itself up in lots of places.
Definitely. Thanks, Skip. I see a comment from Michaela. I saw a cool example through school. A professor said she gave her daughter both girls and boys toys to play with. The result, the cars ended up lying down in toy cradles with blankets. Nice. Yeah. Daniel says, my nieces are very girly girls and some are more tomboys, depends on the parents. Sure, and different, it's not that there's a spectrum within all different, girls and boys and what they're interested in. I think what this video highlights is that we're just surrounded by these biases all the time. And what I would like to highlight is that those were very well-meaning volunteers, right? And they didn't think of themselves as having biases or stereotypes. And this sort of exercise made them think differently about it. And I would assume that you're all very well-meaning volunteers as well. That's why you're here, right? And what we're hoping to do is help raise your awareness a bit more and help you make slight adjustments in the language you use or the way you interact. That was kind of the key thing for me in this video, is that they really had the best of intentions, and we know you all do too. Got some more comments coming in. Carol says, I remember sitting in a chair at a party and someone remarked how difficult it must be for wives to follow their husbands to astronomy out of doors. But you are one of the astronomers, Carol. None of the adults allowed the children to pick the toys for themselves. Michaela says, I hear so many kids demonstrate these stereotypes by the time they're preschoolers. Right, and so there's this this messaging coming from birth, right? And so we can't necessarily, as individuals, fix everything, but we can do our part to, like we said, kind of move the needle and try not to make assumptions. Great, well, thanks for that. So now I'm going to move on, and we want to talk about one concept that you can kind of use as a tool to improve your outreach. And I want to point out, as I'm going through this, we're focused on girls here, but really the techniques and approaches that we're sharing with you are good for everyone. This is just good communication and good outreach, and this is going to be good for girls and boys, children and adults. This is a good way to talk to everybody. So we're going to talk about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. A mindset is a way of saying, is about the established set of attitudes and beliefs that someone holds, and can be something that we don't even realize. So we're going to talk about kind of two contrasting types of mindsets, fixed mindset and growth mindset. So let's dive in a little bit there. So a fixed mindset is when we believe that our basic qualities, like our intelligence or our talent, are just fixed traits. Like you're born that way, you're really smart, you're really talented, or I'm not so talented, I'm not a good singer, I can't cook. And then if you think it's set, then it's more about documenting the intelligence or talent instead of developing it. Maybe you heard some of these ideas when you were growing up. I did. You're so smart. I heard that a lot. I guess you aren't a math person, or you're just a natural at this. Some of these sound like compliments, right? And sure, they could be, but they're examples of a fixed mindset. And there's been a ton of research over the last decades that show that our intelligence and abilities are more flexible. The research around growth mindset, Carol Dweck is a researcher who did a lot of work in that area, if you're interested in learning more about it. So the problem with a fixed mindset, even if it sounds positive, like you're so smart, or you're really good at, you're like really talented, is that it means there's no room to grow. And it means that if you fail at something, then you're somehow not living up to this fixed quality of yours. And like I said, it doesn't leave any room for growth. Whereas a growth mindset can be the attitude that you can always learn something new. I enjoy learning. I want to be challenged. If I'm stuck, I can figure out new strategies. There's no, math person or astronomy person or, music person, that any talent or ability can be developed. I mean, some people might be able to go farther than others, but there's always a chance to learn and grow. So this growth mindset is that if you can put in the effort, you can learn anything, or, learn to do anything. Challenges are good for you and help you grow. It's great to get feedback because that helps me learn more. It's constructive. I like to try new things and learn new things. Others being successful inspires me. And hold on, let me check the notes on this slide. Like I said, Teresa put these together. I think that the text got shifted. So in your outreach, you of course have limited exposure to the folks that you're interacting with. So you're not going to change their entire mindset, right? But you can choose language that helps cultivate more of a growth mindset attitude. Again, I want to point out that fixed mindset statements, and we're going to look at some statements together, can be positive or negative. So, sometimes they sound really like, hey, I want to say a nice thing to this girl at my telescope. I want to say, wow, you're real smart, right? That sounds positive, but it is sort of this fixed mindset type of language. So let's see. Whoops. So we're going to do an activity together, and Teresa has led this activity in-person workshops where we'll have some statements printed out on slips of paper, and we'll try sorting them into fixed mindset, growth mindset, or not so sure. So we're going to do that together, but I'll put up some statements on the slides, and I want you to type into the chat if you think it's fixed or growth mindset. All right. Or you can say no, not sure. I don't have the polls where you get to vote, so just type it into the chat. Okay, first one. I wish I was as smart as you are. What do you think? Fixed, growth, not sure? All right, you're all saying you think it's fixed mindset. And right, that sounds like a compliment, right? And sure, it is, but it is promoting a fixed mindset. So a way that you might rephrase that is you might say something like, I like how you put so much effort into figuring out how to solve that problem. All right, let's try another one. It can be challenging to learn the night sky, so after tonight, you'll be even better at it. Growth mindset, fixed mindset, not sure. Growth mindset, yeah, and I really love this one, right? Because even though you're the expert probably at the telescope, you're acknowledging that it can be challenging and that the more we do it, the better we get at it.
Yeah, Jessica confirmed that Dennis had a really great question, and so I want to make sure that we don't lose track of his question when we're done with these statements.
I see. Okay, let's circle back to it. I see your question, Dennis. And let's make sure we get back to that. And I will do my best to answer it. But let's move on to the next statement. What do you think about this one? You really are a science person. Yeah, again, that's fixed mindset. And again, it's a positive statement, right? We're trying to encourage them to be into science. How might you rephrase this so that you're getting across the same sentiment, but formulating in a way that's promoting more of a growth mindset? Any suggestions? I can tell you have a passion for science. I like that one, Michaela. Any others? Any other suggestions? Yeah, Jessica, I like your point there. Jessica says it's tough because everyone is, right? Everyone's a science person. But the person sitting next to them might not identify that way and may feel sad or inadequate that they aren't. Bob says, you're thinking like a scientist. I like that. You've worked hard to learn about science. I like the way you use science to figure that out. Great, Skip. Teresa's suggestion is you keep trying different tactics until you get the solution. So it's sort of a way of stating the effort you see them putting into it. Yeah, let's try another one. Let's see, what do we got next? Your practice is paying off. Great. Yeah, I would say this is good growth mindset as well, and it's a nice alternative to saying like you're so smart or you're a science person or you're not. This would be a good alternative to saying like you're naturally talented, right? Great. And we've got one more. This one is specific to astronomy. Adjusting the telescope is hard. Let me find that for you. Fixed, yeah. And this could be tricky, right? Because sometimes you want to be careful about how people are handling your telescope. Any suggestions about how you might rephrase this? Anyone? What might you do if someone were struggling to find an object or adjust the focus? Or Dennis is saying, I like that, Dennis. Even I have difficulty finding things. Let's practice adjusting it together. Adjusting the telescope can be challenging, but can be perfected with practice. Would you like to help me find the procedure for adjusting the telescope? Let's see if you can read off the steps while I adjust. Great, those are all good suggestions. And Daniel, right, that's a good point. Depends on the price of the telescope. And I think, you know, I imagine since all of you do outreach, you probably have different approaches to whether you have a telescope that you're going to offer people to handle or not, right? And so if this statement is something that's coming up, it's probably you've already given that opportunity for handling the telescope. Yeah, great. You all have great suggestions. So I sort of already mentioned this one, but you know, we all do this. I do it. I'm sure Brian does it at times where you slip into saying, "Oh, you're so smart," right? Because you want to give some positive praise. You want to be encouraging. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean if you tell someone you're so smart that you're just ruining everything and that girl will never be into science. It's not. So we're not suggesting that if you ever do this, that you're a bad outreacher, you know, but we're just trying to raise your awareness of it, that there are other ways of phrasing things that may ultimately be more encouraging. The problem of saying you're so smart is that there are those kids there who think, well, I'm a smart kid, and it feels like then you always have to be smart. If you don't know anything, if you don't know something, then you're not living up to your smart label. You may make other girls feel bad in comparison. And also it's really vague. It's not really giving specific feedback. So just try to remember that. See if you can catch yourself about to do it and try to rephrase it to something that is more of that kind of growth mindset approach. And it's really about focusing on process over praise, right? So helping a girl notice her improvement, and the process is about always having the possibility of getting better, whereas praise is just an end point and there's nowhere to go from there. Also, calling out specific skills. Let me just, again, check the notes. When someone knows something, you're not really sure why they know it. So maybe they have a degree in that subject, right? I mean, not if it's, an 8-year-old girl, but, or maybe they've done a lot of research. So you can say things like, I like the way you focus the telescope, or it's interesting that you bring that up. So just noticing what people know and not making assumptions about why they know it. And this one I think is a great little tactic as well, or I wanted to say trick, but it's not a trick. Using the word yet. This is a very powerful word. So anytime you hear a girl put herself down, or even if it's not putting herself down, but saying like, oh, I'm just not very good at this. Or if you do it as well, just add the word yet. So for example, I'm not good at cooking. That's just saying like it's an inherent thing. I'm not good at cooking and I never will be. Or you can say I'm not good at cooking yet, which implies that if I put in some practice and time, I can become a better cook. And I said this before, but these techniques are not just for girls, right? This does help begin to address some of the issues that girls are facing all the time that are pushing them away from getting into science. But it's not just for girls and not just for kids. These are tools that are great ways to communicate with all children and also all adults. So you'll be making astronomy more accessible for everyone. And that's good for all of us, right? When you're out in the world, out in the outreach world, or just, walking around in your everyday life, whether you're interacting with children, adults, girls, boys, whatever, listen for this and see how many examples you can find of others using that kind of fixed mindset language, and try to think about how you might rephrase it. So just as you're going around this weekend, see if you encounter any examples, and I invite you to share in the forum if you find any out in the wild. So we are at the top, almost at the top of the hour, and that just fit in just perfectly. So Teresa did a great job planning this session. She put in just the right amount of content for that hour. I know that there had been some questions though, so let's make sure we get to those. I'll just say, as far as what's coming up, we're going to ask that you fill out this very brief survey right after this session. It's only 3 questions, so it'll take you 2 minutes, if that, but that'll help us improve the workshop as we go. So let me share that link with you. Make sure I have it here, sorry. Here we go. And then I know that the Mercury transit's coming up on Monday. Do any of you have events planned? Anyone? Or are you going to observe yourself? anyway, we thought that that might be an opportunity to listen for some fixed and growth mindset, and maybe try it out yourself if you're doing outreach for the Mercury transit. But again, if you don't have an outreach event, you can also just listen. It's everywhere, right? All the time when we're talking to people. So see if you can find some examples. If it's possible during an outreach event, if you're doing something for the transit, great. And then early next week, we're going to invite you again to post in the forum about your outreach experience with girls. So look for a message. It'll probably come from Vivian White. So she's going to be doing some filling in early next week, or maybe Teresa. And you'll hear from me again too. Excuse us for having all these different moderators. It's because Teresa had to travel for a family emergency. So you'll be hearing a little bit from all of us. So just keep an eye out in the forum for that. Here, let me put the link to the survey in the chat again. I know I did, but there's a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, so the question before was, I forget who asked it, but isn't the use of fixed mindset statements like the using of positive reinforcement beneficial? So I think what you mean is that idea of like saying, you're so smart, like, isn't that good? That's a positive praise. And we talked earlier on the slides about process versus praise. It doesn't mean it's negative if you tell someone you're so smart. Like I said, it doesn't mean then you're a bad outreacher. It just is an opportunity to adjust your language to be even more encouraging and showing, demonstrating that there's always room to grow and learn more. Yeah. Any other questions? Brian, did you see any come through? There's a lot of...
I think that the main ones had to do, there was some discussion about praise and, you know, what good praise is. And I think that would be something that would be worth exploring. I know that back years ago when I was in the classroom, there was a fair amount of professional development that we received about, you know, what appropriate praise would be and I've been trying to remember what it was that I learned all those years ago, and unfortunately it's not coming back, but it sounded like Jessica had some really good ideas. And so I think that that would be an important thing to bring out, because there is kind of a distinction between you know, using praise appropriately and in more of a growth mindset rather than in the fixed mindset.
Great, thanks for that explanation, Brian. And Dennis appreciates it too. He says, great answer. I really didn't think like that before. Any other questions or comments? We'll get the recording and the slides posted tomorrow. And like I said, I invite you, if you see any great examples of fixed or growth mindset statements, to share them in the forum if you like. And then look for a post on Monday inviting you to share some more of your thoughts and experiences and get you ready for next week's live session.
And there was one last question from Michaela. I know the forum's such a great space. There's been so many good conversations, and when I took this course before, I got so much out of the forum participation. So definitely encourage you to, if anything feels unfinished, that is a good place to have those conversations. Definitely, yeah. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was a last-minute request just a couple days ago, and I really appreciate that you joined us and really shared about Girl Scouts, because I'm still learning about Girl Scouts myself and don't have a lot of direct experience. So I'm glad that you were able to come and share about that wonderful community. Certainly. Well, it's just great to hear all the amazing ideas that have come from the participants. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. We're at the top of the hour, ending right on time. So we'll see you all in the forum, and then again next Thursday for our next session. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.